Hello, Chef Elena Terry of Wild Berries here, and I wanted to show you how to make an easy recipe using some of our American Indian Foods Producers products. So what we're going to make today is a squash and sweet potato pie with a blue corn and pecan crust. You don't have to add the pecans, but I like adding them because they're a perfect complement to the squash and the sweet potato medley, and it kind of gives the crust an additional texture to add and complement the blue corn. So I'm going to use my food processor today, and in it I am going to add some of this incredible bow and arrow blue corn flour. You'll get the measurements with the recipe that follows. Some unbleached flour, our pecan flour, and some cold butter. And then I'm also just going to add a tiny pinch of salt to this. And I'm going to quickly blend this up. Here. Until it gets to be this nice kind of grainy, coarse, sandy consistency, just like any other pie crust, except it is going to be a little bit different with the blue corn meal. The blue corn will give it a very distinct flavor and texture, but it's going to want a little bit more water than what you're used to with a regular pie crust. So, I'm not sure if you can see this here. I have it a nice consistency and the butter is really well blended, so I'm going to add some ice cold water to it and just give it a couple pulses till it gets blended. So like with any other pie crust, you don't want to overmix this, especially because you don't want it to be tough and chewy. So I just barely pulsed it until it formed a nice ball. Like I said, I want this to have a little extra hydration, so it's a little bit more moist than what your typical pie crust would be. Because that corn, as it kind of blooms in there with the moisture, is going to suck up a little bit of that extra water that you have in there. But I definitely try using some of this bow and arrow blue corn flour as a substitute or as an addition to some of your other flours. Like I love using this alongside flour in breads or as a substitute, as a thickener for gravy. It's incredible. And it offers this unique flavor that's just beautiful. And I'm not sure if you can see how that crust ends up looking, but I'm going to chill this and we'll roll it out. But the grains and the color of that is incredible. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and then get everything set up to show you how to make the filling for this pie. All right, so I put the crust in the refrigerator to chill because I want to make sure that that butter gets nice and firm again, so when we roll it out, it won't be hard or sticky. And also give the corn a little bit of time to bloom and to rest and open up and be ready to roll out. In the meantime, what I've done here is roasted a baby butternut squash and some sweet potatoes so you could see what we're working with. And it's really easy. I mean, squash, pumpkin is a squash, right? And it's very similar to what we're working with here, but the sweetness varies a little bit. And this squash will give the pie a very unique flavor that really complements the corn and the pecans, but also the sweet potato, which is going to add a different texture and kind of additional natural sweetness to the pie. So we're going to use that to our benefit in this recipe. So what I need to do is get 2 cups of the sweet potato And we're just gonna go ahead and use the food processor again. Because it's the easiest way to kind of blend everything together. And that's going to be one large and one small sweet potato, or it's usually around a cup for a medium-sized one. We'll just go ahead and get this out. And once you roast them, they're really easy to peel. Just all that goodness. This is a wonderful pie for the holidays, but it's also really good for the winter because there's a lot of vitamins in squash and sweet potatoes. Get a towel here quick. And 1 cup of this beautiful squash, which after I roasted it and cooled it, just really scoops out easily. If you know me, I absolutely love using squash. I'll put squash in anything that I can. It is a really underutilized ingredient, in my opinion, and it does offer so much vitamins. And it's available all over the place. A lot of people use squash or pumpkin for decoration, but they're absolutely delicious as a thickener, as the star of a dish like this pie. It's just awesome. So we're doing 2 cups of sweet potato, 1 cup of squash, and I'm just going to put that into the food processor. Quick rinse my hands. And to that, I'm going to use some of the sweetness of life. And I love using Ziibimijwang, their maple sugar. I get it by the 10-pound bag because we use it that much. And it's just this wonderful substitute to refined cane sugar. It's got a lower glycemic index and there's so much flavor, and you really can use it as a substitute. You might want to vary it a little bit or test it out, but it's definitely something that is worth testing out. And it's got this unique texture that when you put a little bit on your tongue, it just melts in your mouth, and it has that same effect in your cooking. So it just kind of dissolves and beautifully adds flavor to your sweet dishes. So we're going to add a 1/4 cup of that, some almond milk, and then we're also going to add a 1/4 cup of maple syrup because we want to make sure that we have enough liquid in here. So we're using the maple sugar, which is a little bit more condensed flavor, but we're also going to add a little bit of liquid with a 1/4 cup of the maple syrup. And then we're adding a teaspoon of vanilla like you would pumpkin pie, some pie spice, and 1 egg. And then we're going to puree this together. Sure that this has a nice creamy consistency and that all of those kind of pulpy strands are really well blended, and they will get there. It didn't take me very long and it's absolutely gorgeous. So that's my beautiful filling, and we'll get ready to roll out the pie crust and fill this pie. So the dough finished chilling. I had it in there for about 20 minutes to make sure that it was cool, but it's fine to leave in there overnight, which I have done before, and it rolls out perfectly the next day. I've lightly floured my surface, and I am just working on rolling this out to fit the size I need. And I definitely don't want this to be too thick of a crust on the bottom. And I'll crimp the edges a little bit, but I definitely like the rustic look on a pie, especially on a pie like this. So I'm just going to roll it up a little bit and put it down. The bake time for this pie is around the same as a pumpkin pie. It's going to vary based on your oven, but I like to give it between 50 and 60 minutes in the oven. And you don't need to cover the crust with foil. It ends up getting a nice golden brown and slightly crispy if you just leave it be uncovered. So we have our crust there. I'm just going to go ahead and add our filling and get it in the oven. And this is going into a preheated 350-degree oven for, like I said, I'm going to check it at 50 minutes and see, but oven times vary. Sometimes it's 50 minutes, sometimes it's 60 minutes. So we'll let you see how it turns out when it comes out. It's been 55 minutes in the oven and I just pulled the pie out. I wanted to show it to you and share it with you because if you can see, there are tiny little specks of the blue corn in the crust. It's got nice golden. The squash and sweet potato mixture will kind of settle down a little bit more as it cools, but it smells incredible. And I know my family can't wait to cut into that pie a little later. I definitely want to encourage you to explore the uniqueness of the American Indian Foods products. The producers, such as Bow and Arrow or Ziibimijwang that I've used in this recipe, offer such exclusive product that has this wonderful flavor, textures. It just takes a little bit of experimenting to be able to find some of these recipes. So hopefully we look forward to bringing more ways of using these incredible ingredients in your own home. And like I said, I encourage you to support American Indian Foods Program and the American Indian Foods producers and get these flavors into your home. Thank you for cooking with me, and we'll see you.